Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of PR Explored, a video podcast where we delve into trends and topics related to public relations. I'm your host, Michelle Garrett, a PR consultant and writer. And today, Gina Rau is with me, and I'm so happy to have her here today. Hello, Gina.
Hey, Michelle, I am so happy to be here.
Yay. So, we have known each other a number of years,
Yeah, too many to count.
but I have always, kind of followed your career and, like, I always feel like, you have it together. Like, like, you've put the work in and you know what you're doing, and so I am just really pleased to have you here today, and I would love if you would just kinda catch us up, maybe tell us a little bit about you and your background. I'm sure for people that don't know, and I'll put your LinkedIn over here for them to also check out.
Great, thank you. Well, I'm glad I come off as having my stuff together. That's great. That's great to have that reputation. We won't talk about whether or not I actually do have all my stuff together, but I am thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me. As I said earlier, this feels just like a conversation, catching up with an old friend. So I talk about my career as a little bit like a bowl of spaghetti. Um, I, I don't think my career has ever looked like a nice little linear chart. I have spent time in the B2C. I started in the B2C side, working on the agency side, but in B2C for like McDonald's and Taco Bell, a lot of AOR, counter agency of record work. And then I've been in-house, I've been in technology, I had my own company, I've worked with small, like 12-person early stage startups. I've worked with a lot of founders and solo entrepreneurs when I had my own business. I've led a marketing team, a $25 million company. And now I'm at a company called Six Sense. We're in B2B tech. We're global, but headquartered in San Francisco. I'm fortunate to be able to work remote, and yeah, I think that's most of my career. The bowl of spaghetti.
No, but that's the best way, right? I mean, because
Yeah.
when I talk to new, young professionals, I'm always like, don't get too set on any like, one thing early on because you kind of have to try some things to find out what you do and more importantly, don't enjoy doing and what you
Hmm.
at and what you're good at.
Totally. I don't remember when or why I did this, but I took some sort of survey one time. It's probably like an Indeed or something, um, or some career thing, where you got into your discipline like marketing communications, and then it had you like check all the boxes within marketing and communications that you had experience in. And I think I had selected every single box but one, paid. And I thought, is this good? Am I should I care about being a specialist versus a generalist? And now when I look back at my bowl of spaghetti career, I feel like I really believe that the breadth of my experience, the in-house, the agency side, the B2C, the B2B, big brands like McDonald's, tiny little solopreneurs, that has provided so many experiences.
Mhm.
I've tried so many things. Even the things that I've tried before and didn't work out so well, with a twist, I can call upon those experiences and be like, you know what, that thing that failed that one time, I think it actually could work here. I also, because I've done so much in marketing, I feel like I play well with my marketing peers. Like I understand what's really important to them, because I've sat in their shoes. I don't know. I feel like it has benefited me. May not be for everyone, but it has definitely benefited me, my career.
Yeah. And it keeps it interesting, right? Because,
Totally.
I
Yeah,
think
because I
at
can get
some
bored.
point yeah, I know, that's what I'm thinking. I'm like, I was having that
Mhm.
conversation with somebody not too long ago. It's like, well, you kinda at some point, you've gotta find ways to keep it fresh for yourself because it's like,
Mhm.
it's important. So,
It
well,
is.
Yeah. So today, we are going to be talking about B2B PR and comms from an in-house perspective because obviously now and this point in your career you bring that and but obviously we could talk about any number of things and I just feel like this is a topic that is important because I think it is different when you are a consultant or work for an agency
Mhm.
in-house and I do think that sometimes many of us may not always remember what it was like. I did it, but it's been a while for me. So
Mm. It is quick. It's easy to forget.
yeah,
Mhm.
well, and sometimes you maybe you wanna forget. There are things that you don't wanna remember
True.
about more from my agency life than my in-house life, probably that.
Mhm. Mhm.
But we that's not what we're talking about today.
No, no. It's funny. I hear, I mentor some early in their career people, and that is one of the most common questions that I get. What's the difference
Mhm,
between being in-house and agency? And I think there's some things that like everyone tells you, like, oh, when you're in-house, you have to go really deep. You have to know everything about the product or everything about the company. And yes, that's totally true. I
mhm.
think a few other differences though that people don't always think about is like when you're in-house, you're closer to the consequences. Um,
Oh, that's
so if a reporter doesn't respect, let's say, an embargo, um, or if they get details wrong, you're in the hot seat. You're getting called into an executive meeting. If something goes out before sales is enabled, you're in the hot seat. If you applied to an award, submitted it for an award, and they told you that your annual revenue would not be published, and it gets published, you're getting a 6 a.m. call from a CFO.
yikes.
Like, what the heck? How do we get that taken down? I think you're just so much closer to the hot seat, and the consequences of things that are some that I mean, as you know, like are out of your control.
Yeah.
Someone doesn't like a headline, you get the phone call. At the same time, I think you're also closer to the wins.
Yeah.
We always want to celebrate with our agency friends, our agency partners, but sometimes, like internally, they don't know the agents. They may not know the agency partners, and so you're closer to the wins. Um, I also think it's the context switching is real. When you're on the agency side, when I was on the agency side, I always had the benefit of only working on one account. And so I did not have to juggle a lot of
Okay.
varied and different accounts. But I hear from a lot of my peers, like, oh my gosh, six, seven,
Yeah.
8 accounts at a time.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
that would that just like blows my mind. Um, Internally, when you're in house, there's still a lot of context switching. I mean, my calendar would frighten you if I pulled it up right now. I can be in back to back meetings for like 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. And so you're context switching, but I'm still talking about Six Sense. We're still talking about our product and, our people, whatever it is. So there's focus, but there's still some context switching. It's not like, I'm talking about Six Sense, and then I'm thinking about, another totally different account, like
Right.
all in the same day. I think for me that would be hard. It feels like it would be hard. Maybe not, um,
Yeah.
but I think those are some of the differences that come to mind for me.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's different because, you can go, really deep, but then, yeah, you're the one that's kinda holding the bag if something, goes off the rails, which I mean, the agency would be held responsible maybe too, but not in the same,
Totally.
like
It's Yeah, it's a little different. It's a little different. I think, I was also just thinking as you were saying that, when you're in-house, as you grow in your career, your, purview expands, and so
Mm,
if you are someone who loves media relations,
yeah,
you eventually get pulled into other things. It starts slowly, like, "Oh, why don't you also take on, this
yeah.
thing?"
Mhm.
My role today, I didn't say this at the top, of our conversation, but my role today includes so much more beyond media relations. It's, internal communications, it's executive communications, it's thought leadership, it's organic social, and a host of other things that I get involved in from day to day. So I think if you are, on the agency side,
Mhm.
you're at a PR agency, you are mostly working with media relations and thought leadership, like in that space. And I
Right.
think in-house, you get pulled in other directions. Um,
Yeah.
and that's just a consideration.
Yeah.
I love that. Not everyone does.
Yeah. No, I know what you're saying because I think it just, is I mean, it adds a layer of complexity almost to it, like, I mean, it's not like you're doing the same kinda thing every day, it's probably every day is
Mhm.
probably a little bit different, so
Oh, for sure. Oh, for sure.
So, but I think it's good to have the agency experience, maybe as a young pro. I did my agency experience right before I went out as a consultant, so I had been, working a while when I did it, and that was pretty painful for me. So I don't know. It's good
I
to have.
think it Yeah, I think there's a discipline on the agency side that is really, really beneficial for young people starting their PR career, especially if I had the benefit of working at larger agencies when I was on the agency side. And so there was just all this discipline, the way an agency brainstorms or the way an agency does their project management processes. Like sometimes when you go into a company, maybe that those processes don't exist. I've been in, startups where I was building the things, when I got there. And so if I hadn't had that experience, I would not even know where to start. And so I think there's a discipline and a rigor on the agency side that is really beneficial.
And it does teach you how to switch gears and,
Mhm.
juggle a lot of balls and, like, I mean, that was I think what was most difficult for me was just trying to, you have, like, a layer of bosses. You have, your
Mhm.
client, and then you have your boss, and then so it's just and, trying to please everyone, it can be stressful. That was my biggest, takeaway from that, just, yeah.
Totally. Totally. But also I think that's good experience. I remember when at one agency in particular, we had some challenging clients, and every time their offices were literally across this like mega eight lane highway. Um, so it took us like 20 minutes just to drive there. But before we would, I was like account supervisor. And so before we would go over to meet with the client, like our account director would sit down with us like, okay, like let's run through the challenges you're going to get, the pushback, the questions and everything, and how are you going to answer and what are you going to say, and like the part of the job that is handling those difficult conversations, standing up for what's right, being the person in the room who can kind of shine the mirror and say, this is the right thing to do, or challenge objections, whatever. Like when you're early in your career, like it is hard, it's painful, it is so uncomfortable, but it's really great experience. And I think on the in-house, I still use a lot of those skills because sometimes, especially like as you grow in your career and you get, you earn yourself a seat at the executive table, you're often the person in the room that they look to for like, okay, what's the risk if we do this thing?
Yeah.
Or what's the sentiment, going to be if we say this instead of this, or if we do this and not that? Like you're there to be the voice of the outside market
Yeah.
and the protector of their reputation, whatever it is. And being comfortable, being uncomfortable is really important and valuable in those kind of conversations. It's why I'm sometimes in a room.
Yeah. And I think that's great, if a company actually does bring in, PR comms council, as part of that team, I think that's the way it should be, and I feel
Mhm.
like now, maybe we're getting a little bit more, I guess, respect in that way, because I feel like sometimes in the past, it was more like they would say something and then bring in, the comms team to, like, clean up the mess or,
Mhm.
deal with the aftermath, and now I think there's maybe hopefully, not always, but sometimes a little bit more forethought about that, so,
I think so. I think so.
yeah. Let's talk about how in-house pros work across teams because I feel like, when I was in-house, I was best friends with like our sales team often. Um,
Mhm.
and of course, I had to be in sync with investor relations, the legal team, and of course, product marketing. That was a vital part if, whenever we had a product to
Mhm.
launch, all that. So I just feel like, that maybe presents a challenge, but or let's just talk about that a little bit.
Maybe. I love the way you said that. Your voice went up like three levels. It can. It totally can. I remember one of the first product focused press releases I worked on. This was so many lives ago. Um, I quickly learned how pieces of content, especially a press release, becomes a word salad because you have so many stakeholders and everyone has an opinion. And if they haven't aligned on those opinions before you actually put words on a piece of paper to become a press release, as everyone reviews it, every single reviewer has an opinion and they like certain words. I want to say this, not this. I want to say use, not leverage, or whatever it is.
Mhm,
And what you get back, especially like in this age of shared Google Docs or whatever, becomes what I call word salad. Like you don't even recognize the main point anymore. So I think, yeah, we have to partner, with the entire across the entire organization. There's not a team I don't work with on a weekly basis, depending on what's going on. To make sure that I would say most of the time is to make sure that we're aligned in the narrative. Because if we're aligned in the narrative, that would cover the words, that would cover the strategy, that
mhm.
would cover the audience and what's important to them and what we're going after. That would include our reasons to believe, that we're going to include the proof points. If we're aligned in the narrative, I have a lot of faith that we can most quickly, most easily, most efficiently get to the outcomes that we want.
Mhm.
Um, but it's not always hard, and I think in this age of AI where engineering development is having they're able to work faster, they're pushing products out faster. I look across the market, and there is so much newness every day. I remember there was like I don't know, a period of time, probably last year, where this Slack community that I'm within, there's a woman there who keeps the group informed on AI advancements. And there was a period of time last year where every single day there was a new big announcement. And of course, I always think there's a comms team behind that. There is someone trying to figure out like what does the thing do from the product team, and what are we trying to say about the thing from the product marketing team, and is sales enabled? There's someone, there's a comms person behind those daily messages, trying to just keep
Yeah,
up, and yeah, it's a challenge.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, well, the AI space in general is just so full.
It's moving fast. It's moving really fast. And
Mm,
I think, for all of us in tech comms, that means, we're trying to stay ahead. We're trying to like lead the way, lead the market, prime the market for what we're about to announce or do. And when we're moving that fast, man, your pace has got to be faster. I'm in like the 4.5 mile, runner bucket right now in a marathon. It's fast,
I
but
just
it's
feel
exciting.
well, I feel for the reporters because it's clear to me that they just can't possibly keep up with every bit of news from every company, that's in that space because it's just, yeah, I don't know. It seems, unprecedented in my, view, but I don't know. It doesn't seem to be slowing down, that's for sure.
I don't think we're going to see a slowdown there, Michelle, for I don't even know how long. I think this might be just how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see. And on that note, what would you say about, do you think that PR is becoming, we kind of touched on this a little bit, is
Mhm.
becoming more important to the overall marketing and communication strategy?
I think so. I think, you hinted at this earlier, the role of PR, in terms of, like, business outcomes has shifted.
Yeah.
I think with everything with the LLMs and AEO, GEO, whatever however you, call it, the everyone is using AI in their life and work in some way, even if we don't realize it. And with LLMs learning about companies and their products and their services and their people, they're out there crawling the Wikipedias, looking at what people are saying on Reddit, on review sites like your G2s of the world, and that's how they're learning. And so if our buyers are relying on these LLMs to help navigate the buyer's journey, companies need to be training those LLMs on the things we want them to know. It's so important that the LLMs and the tools that we're using have factual, reliable, timely information. And a
Mhm.
lot of times that is coming from the works of PR professionals, whether it's a news publication or our blog or thought leadership on LinkedIn. That's the content is training these LLMs. And so I think our profession has earned a seat at the big marketing table, and our role has shifted a little bit. When we, for example, when we go to quarterly business reviews, I'm bringing in our GEO information, like how are we doing with GEO visibility? Where can we improve? I
Mhm.
don't always own the channels maybe that can improve our visibility, but I bring in that information. And so it's a different role, I believe, that PR plays within marketing and communication,
Mhm.
given a lot of the advancements in technology. Um, I also think there's just so much more, I don't know, potential to impact the business when we're closely aligned with the rest of marketing.
Well, yes. But again, I feel like sometimes PR just kind of gets shoved in the corner or treated as, just not as vital of a piece of the overall marketing program. And so that's why, I mean, I feel like
Mm.
the AI, the LLMs have kind of helped us, get to where we should have been all along. But anyway.
I think so. I also wonder sometimes if people maybe internally like don't understand what we do,
Yeah.
what it takes to go from, oh, we're going to release a product, or we're going to do a thing that we want to make an announcement about, and then all of a sudden it just appears on Forbes or Business Wire or
Yeah.
wherever, or an executive just publishes a LinkedIn post. Like I think to so many people, even within marketing, our closest peers, I sometimes like what we do is just kind of mystical or magical. Like,
Yeah.
how do they do that? Because it is so very different than many other areas within marketing.
The education is such a big piece, I think always, and,
Mhm.
I have that conversation a lot too. It's like, "Does that ever end?" And it's like, "No," because,
Mm-mm.
just trying to get them to understand, and then once, we think we know what we're doing, then the game changes, and we're doing, we may have to change up, our approach a little bit, so, but generally, I do feel like what we have been doing is going to benefit companies that have been doing that. It's gonna benefit them in showing up,
Mhm.
I in the GEO, results and
Mhm.
all of that. So I feel like that's, you know, good, for companies that have been, and if they haven't been, then they need to be starting, like, yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. The other thing I do, I mean, first of all, I think I'm really fortunate to work with great marketing peers. Um, and I try, I probably don't always do this, but I try to, if I'm going to give, a shout out, if I'm going to, Publicizing our PR outcomes
Right.
is
Yep.
the thing that none of us are good at. We are really great at promoting and publicizing our company or our leaders or our product, whatever. We're not good at, it's like PR for the PR or marketing for marketing. None of us are good at it. But I think when I share, either a great win or an outcome, whatever, in like a marketing Slack channel, let's say, I try to remember to let everyone know like what it took to get this, maybe all the hoops, all the, the 12 approvals in 24 hours or, whatever it took, and then how it actually impacts the business.
Yeah.
What goal this helps attribute to or impact, how it contributes to our LLM visibility, like whatever it is.
Yeah.
So because I think sometimes people don't realize, I think it's hard to see those top of funnel impacts and wins and
Mhm.
how they actually impact like the business outcomes that we're looking for.
And that's perfect. Perfect segue because let's talk about measurement because I feel
Love
like,
that.
we're often asked to provide, um, metrics to meet KPIs or,
Mhm.
whatever, and I just feel like, what does the C-suite actually what do they wanna see or what moves the needle or what do you think about
Mhm.
that?
So I mean, I think we've all tracked share of voice through our career,
Right.
or how many articles we landed, or whatever it is, like the quantitative measure of activities, which like the number of press releases or the number of something. And
Yeah.
sometimes we do that. We do report on share of voice, we do report on reach and impressions and social engagement. That is not what I hang my hat on, though. We also track quality. Are we getting in the right publications that matter to our,
Right.
our targeted audience? I don't. If an article about our technology never appears in People Magazine, I'm okay with that. Nothing against People Magazine. It's my favorite publication when I'm going on a long trip. But if we're not talked about it, that's okay. I'm okay with that. So I look for quality publication. Is it a quality article? Like, did they just rearrange my press release, or did they actually take the time to kind of understand what we're trying to do? And was their message pull through all of that? But what I hang my hat on is how are we impacting the business? And so, at Sixth Sense, we use multi-touch attribution. And so we're able to see, especially like for organic social, how are we impacting pipeline? How are we influencing pipeline? Um, that I look at quite a bit. I look at executive visibility. Are executives getting the right opportunities? Are we getting the inbound requests? Are
Yeah.
we are we are we getting product coverage? Are we getting meaningful product coverage? Product coverage is so hard. Introducing a new AI something something is not earning a lot of coverage these days. So when we do, and we've been really fortunate to have since over the past 5 years that I've been here, and so, I those are the kind of things that I look at. The thing is, like, the closer you get to impacting the business, the more credibility you earn with the CFO.
Okay.
And having business acumen and understanding what's important to the business helps, but proving how you're impacting the business, it is what really matters. That's what I care most about.
And it's hard though. I mean, I think,
Mhm.
it might be easier when you're kind of overseeing a lot of different not just PR, obviously, but,
Yes.
because I feel like PR ladders up to something bigger, right? I mean, it's part of a campaign or part of a marketing program, but it's not the
Mhm.
only thing, and so I think that's where sometimes I think when we're asked from a PR perspective to measure or, prove, our worth, it can be difficult.
It can be, I know. I mean, in the seat I sit in now, my ultimate responsibility is company reputation. What are the audiences that we care about? What do they believe about us?
Okay.
And so I think about my role as shaping belief. And to be honest, the media is is very important. But I always start with employees. Like if employees don't believe what we're going to go tell the media, I don't have a chance at changing reputation or changing or impacting how people believe. The message has to be believable internally first. Um, and, and so I think about my role, like if we really want to have this reputation where we are, on some buyer's day one list, 90% of the time, a buyer has a day one list, a short list of vendors they're going to research. And 80% of the time, the chosen vendor was on that top day one list. They stay the top favorite and they win the deal. And that comes from our own research. Um, so if I want to make that day one shortlist, I need to be top of mind. We need to have a reputation for, what we do and who we do it for and what kind of outcomes we can provide a buyer. And so when I think about that, um, that's my ultimate goal. I want to make someone's day one list. And so earning that reputation. So AI visibility is super important, because the LLMs are part of that buyer journey now. They may not inform the day one list, but they're part of it. Publications, what people are saying on LinkedIn, what people are saying on G2 review sites, like that's all part of shaping that reputation, shaping and informing what people believe about your company and your product.
Yes. Very yes. I agree. So let's talk about, we've talked a little bit about this, but internal alignment.
Mm-hmm.
What is there any kind of a challenge that, is more time consuming than, the people that
Mm-hmm.
don't, that work at an agency or work outside of a company would expect?
I mentioned the meetings. There's a lot of meetings. I think, in I hinted at this earlier, but right now with AI and technology just moving so quickly, getting the messaging and the narrative and positioning right takes a little bit. It doesn't take longer because you don't have the time. You don't have the time to allow it to take longer. It
Mhm,
takes more. It takes a few more cycles. And I hear this from my peers who work inside companies that are like, leading innovators. The number of cycles to get, or the number of revs of the messaging doc, to get to something final, has increased. And I also hear from some of my peers that the evolution of their positioning and messaging is happening. I've got a couple peers. I didn't ask for permission to talk about them, so I won't give them as examples, or call them out by name. But they're in AI native companies where the positioning is changing like quarterly. And so when you think about your positioning changing quarterly, that impacts, I mean, not just the high level company positioning, but that's a waterfall of everything that impacts, everything that you have to go back and like make sure, like, did the sales enablement get updated? Did contracts get up? I mean, everything that touches everything. And so I think if you're working in technology right now in house, just keeping up with how you're talking about the innovation
mm,
is a different pace than it was maybe 2 years ago before the sort of AI evolution. Um, and then, of course, keeping everyone aligned internally, you're sitting through a lot of enablement. You're bringing people along, and I think that's the most important thing right now is how are we bringing our internal people along
mhm,
when things are moving so quickly. Um, Alignment is one thing amongst the leaders who are making the decisions.
right,
Alignment across a large organization, when I think of like a larger organization like Anthropic or Microsoft or Google, like these big organizations,
mhm,
bringing tens of thousands of employees along that journey at the same time, so that everyone is speaking or singing from the same song sheet, that's a lift.
Yeah.
That is a significant lift,
Yes. I don't
but
know.
critical.
Well, I mean, the when you talk about changing messaging quarterly, I mean, that's like, I don't, that kinda makes my head explode because I'm like, how would you keep up with that, you know? So
I was talking to a peer recently who said who was telling me about the spreadsheet that they have with the versions of all their messaging documents because keeping track of everything, keeping track of all the artifacts that need to be updated, and they're updating actually on a monthly basis because they're releasing on a monthly basis. So, what she was telling me, like what they will, she does not yet know what they'll release like Q1 of next year, but she knows that the positioning will change.
that is crazy. That's
I
crazy.
know. I know. It blows my mind.
Oh gosh. Um, let's spend a little time talking because to me this is important. So I hope other people think it's an important question as
Sure.
well. But what do in-house pros look for in their
Mm,
external partners? So if you're going to hire a consultant or an
mhm.
agency, what really stands out to you?
Sure. I think there are some, like just basic things that you look for. Like, do they have a sense of the land? Do they know the landscape? Do they know the environment, the industry? We're in Martech, RevOps. Do they know that? How much do I have to educate them?
Hmm.
Like, of course, when you hire a new partner, there will be an education period, but like
Right.
how much do I need to educate them? Like where's our starting point? The closer it is to far along, the better. And just I think the easier lift, the faster they're going to be able. I mean, when I work with a new partner, I want them to have some early wins. And early wins are easier when that ramp up can be condensed or shorter. And so I look for like where's our starting point of their knowledge base. Um, I want to know what their reputation is in the market. Want to make sure that they've the individual relationships with reporters matter, but
Hmm.
less like what's their reputation? Are they known for doing great work? Are they known for really partnering with their clients and with reporters? I look for things like, will they bring us opportunities, but also tell us when an opportunity is not right? Will they be the person, the party in the room that will say the uncomfortable things that no one else in the room wants to say? Um, in previous lives, I've worked when I was in house. We were sometimes brought in when, let's say, a CMO knew that she was being asked to do something that wasn't the right thing,
Hmm.
but she didn't have the political capital. And so the agency was brought in to, you know, make the bold recommendation that this isn't the right thing to do, and here's why.
Yeah.
Um, and that's a good agency partner, someone who will stand up and do the right thing and not just kind of go along with what everyone thinks is the right thing to do. I also look for like, who are the people that we're going to work with on a day to day basis, and do we have some chemistry? We don't need to be besties, but are we going to want to work together? I
Yes.
think whether it's people like that, our coworkers and colleagues that we work with together in house and are on our team or across the org, are they, and I think about people who we partner with too, like, are they the kind of people that we want to seek out when we have a new project? When a new opportunity comes my way, anyone's way, we think about like, who do I want to work with on this? Like, who's going to be a good thought partner? Who's going to be reliable? Who's going to, bring their very best? Like all that.
Yeah.
I want people that I want to work with, and vice versa. I want to be the best. I tell every single partner, I want to be your number one client. Tell me what it's going to take to be your number one client. Does
Yeah.
that mean, does that mean I show up on meetings to time? Like that's a low bar. I mean, I am habitually like 2 minutes late to meetings, but I will show up. Like, where's the bar to be your top client? Because that's what we want to be. Um, and not for any, I don't know, I don't know what the wrong reasons would be to be that, but we all I want to be the kind of people that our partners want to work with too. So I think chemistry is real important.
That's I love to hear you say that because I think a lot of times it's obviously about like, okay, well, we want them to be, on top of their game, but we're just gonna hire them and then we're gonna like disappear, like, and that will not work. I mean, for me, that doesn't work.
Mm-mm.
I need a collaborative relationship. I don't need, a client that's gonna, like hover over me or anything, but I do need their input, their feedback. We need to meet
Mm-hmm.
regularly. We need to be talking because I want to be like part of the team and I want them to trust me and look at me as, a resource that is
Mm-hmm.
valuable to them. So I feel like if more companies went into it that way, just saying, what can we do to be your favorite client? Because I think obviously, all consultants or agencies probably have their favorites.
We all do. Yes.
Then, that would be it would may be a different, situation, I think, because a lot of times it's not like that, so
It's too often not. I remember I was on the agency side at a big grocer company, and we were doing a big launch, huge brand rebrand launch, and the CEO, we were kind of doing like a road show and going to different markets. And at our first stop, the CEO got on stage to introduce us. And I'm waiting, all mic'd up to go and present the new brand and everything. And he started introducing us in this way that did not sound very flattering. He was like, when we started this agency relationship, I wanted the agency, I had a vision of what I wanted from this agency. And this agency, again, I'm not going to say names because I did not ask for permission. They actually didn't follow the path I wanted them to. In fact, and he points to me, she got us in, it was an environment that the C-suite had not actually gone and like shopped in their stores.
oh, dear.
And so they didn't have that experience of like of the consumer. And I made them do that. And they fought really hard against it, but I made them do that. And he called me out. I'm getting ready to step on stage, already full of nerves. He's like, and she made me, like dress in plain clothes, like in disguise, and go into the stores and do these things. And it was not what I wanted. I really just thought they were going to just kind of do what we asked them to do. And they did not. They did not just, call in our orders and do what we wanted them to do, but they pushed us. They pushed us. They pushed the boundaries. They made us think beyond what we thought was possible. And, we ended up in this big, bold place. And it was like, oh, okay, now I can breathe. But like that's a good agency partner. And like that's what he said on stage. Like that makes a good agency partner when they're willing to push for the right thing. That's a great agency partner.
It's risky though, right? I mean, on the
Mm-hmm.
agency side or the
Yeah.
consultant side sometimes, because
Mm-hmm.
you have to kinda know where you stand, I think, before maybe
You
you
do.
start
You do.
making
Yes.
any kind of, recommendations that might be viewed as, something like, cringy, but Um, they're not necessarily cringy, but yeah, they might just think of that way.
Yeah.
The other point that you made that and I'm taking notes, so, um, is the day to day, because I think sometimes, obviously we've worked at agencies, we know how this is, and I think, this is just kind of the way it always is. They bring in the big guns to land the account, and then,
Yes.
you're working with entirely different, folks that
Hmm.
may or may not have as much experience, probably not, and not that there's anything wrong with that at all. However, I do think it's important to just know that and then
It
factor
is.
that when you're talking to, providers.
Oh, it totally is. Yeah. I would not work with an agency partner if I couldn't meet the team ahead of time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and there is turnover too, often in agencies,
There
so
is. I
yeah.
know. I know. Or count movements, whatever it is.
Yeah,
I know.
so you
And
might
that's
get
hard.
Yeah, you might get really used to relying on a certain person that you just love to work with, and then they might leave or yeah, change to another account or something. So,
I know.
anyway, yeah, it's always good to know who you're gonna be working with, and then it's
Mhm.
always good to have that collaborative, work environment, that work relationship. So, I thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
It gives me hope because, yeah, we don't always experience that, I guess,
I
in
know.
workplaces.
It's
Let's
possible
talk
though.
yeah, yeah. Um, let's talk about we're running up. We got about maybe 10 minutes left here.
Mhm.
Um, can you and obviously, if anyone has questions, I have put it on the screen a couple times. We're happy to take questions. I'm sure Gina would be happy to take your questions. So, um, can you talk about a communications program that changed market perception or supported a business outcome that was meaningful?
I can, yeah. I'm glad you sent this question over ahead of time because I was thinking about it. And this one I can talk about and name some names. But I share this one example because it was one of the like early experiences for me in my career where like I saw strongly held opinions change right in front, literally right in front of my face. So this was like, I'm not going to mention how long ago. It was just a long time ago. I was on the agency side for McDonald's, and when when I came here, when I came to the Northwest, the McDonald's restaurants in the Oregon and Washington area were in experiencing year over year decline in sales, and it was at a time where they shouldn't have. Wasn't something experienced, in other markets or anything. It was a real anomaly, and it was very extreme. It wasn't just year over year sales. It was like deeply rooted. Um, Negative association with the brand, to the point where, if a new McDonald's was being proposed in a neighborhood, the community would you know demonstrate against having that restaurant. There was other sort of extreme acts of, like, vandalism and stuff like that. And so on the agency side, we dug in. We went out, we went on a listening tour. We did customer research, we did focus groups, we
Mm,
did listening sessions, and we really got into the community to figure out, like, what is going on. And interestingly, what we discovered was the early days of the local movement. There was this sentiment that Oregonians were, which is where the local movement really kind of either began or, really got some momentum going. It was they didn't want their hard-earned dollars leaving Oregon. They wanted them to stay in Oregon. They wanted to, go to the local, Burgerville instead of the global chain out of Chicago, Illinois. And so this was deeply rooted opinions and beliefs. And we had a suspicion that surely some of the dollars that you spend stay locally. They benefit local markets. So we partnered with a university to do an economic impact study, and we looked at, for every dollar that you spend at a McDonald's restaurant, how is every penny dispersed. And what we learned was, how many of those dollars come back to the local communities from, like, taxes paid, how many roads they've funded or other projects in the local communities, how many, if you've had a volunteer night and you've gone to, like, I think they were called McTeacher nights, benefiting schools, how many dollars went back to the local school programs. We looked at globally how McDonald's supports local farmers. So we learned about, I forget the percentages, like, but it's a massive amount of the pickles on a McDonald's cheeseburger start as an Oregon cucumber.
wow.
I know, it was crazy. How many onions came from, Eastern Oregon? How many golden French fries came from Idaho potatoes? And so we launched what we called a campaign, Communities Grow with McDonald's. And I remember on the day that it launched, and it was, it was an integrated campaign. So it was, PR, it was everything. And on the day we launched it, I was in Southern Oregon in a rural farming community. And we were at this diner, next to the hotel. And we were at our booth drinking our coffee because it was super duper early. And there were some farmers behind us in the booth. And they were going through the newspaper where we had a full page ad of, with a face of a farmer, and they knew him, and
Mhm.
they were like, did you know that, whatever, Charlie is selling his cucumbers to McDonald's? I had no idea. Did you know that? Like, wow, that is so cool. And they were just, I mean, I remember, I get goosebumps now just talking about it. um one of our activations was at this, like, metal outdoor music festivals, like, one of those 3-day metal, hard rock music festivals. And me and my team, we showed up with like McDonald land cookies and backpacks with Powerade. And so while people were in line, it was like 100 degrees, while people were in line to go into this music festival, we were like handing out cookies, but we were talking about how communities grow at McDonald's, locally, and how much money stays. And because they were bringing their objections, they were like, I'm not supporting, global company, blah blah blah. And we would tell them about about the cucumbers that become the pickles, and the roads, and the this and the that, and they were like, huh, really? I didn't know that. Really? And so, like, that was so powerful, to watch how, the data, how we went from, these deeply rooted opinions and, beliefs, strong held beliefs, all the way to how we changed them. It was a lot of work, but
Yeah.
it was just, it was really, really powerful.
No, that's incredible. I mean, that I just, I mean, I don't even know how how did you come up with that? Like
It was not me. It was a team. It was not me. It was our agency team. Did a lot of lifting, a lot of lifting.
Yeah.
But I'm thankful to have been a part of it, because
Yeah.
it was probably one of the more impressionable campaigns that I've been able to work on.
And that's incredible because the data, obviously reporters love data, right? So that's always good for
Loved it.
reporters, but
Yeah.
then just, the consumers, just the community, that's
Hmm.
interesting that it changed their opinion as well, so it appealed to them as well as the
Yeah.
reporters, so, I mean, that would work on so many levels, obviously content creation and, like, it would be like it would be fun, it would be a lot of ideas could come out of that, I think, so.
Yeah, I think, for communicators, when I think about what is one of the greatest, most important skills that we bring, it's listening. And
Mhm.
so, if you don't know what the problem is that you're really trying to solve,
Yeah.
if you don't know what people already believe about you or your product or your service or your leaders, you can't change what they believe. You gotta know where you're starting from. Where's the starting point? What do you believe about us today, so that I can influence that.
Yeah. No, that's great. I love that. Um, I mean, I wanna ask one more question before we
Okay.
go.
Okay.
I kinda would love to end on that because that's just a really good soundbite, but, but we have a couple minutes, and
Okay.
I'm curious what your answer is gonna be. So, do you think there's a thought leadership opportunity that B2B companies are underusing?
I don't know if they're underusing it, but I will say, over the past, what, 2 to 3 years, there's been this sort of, rise in executive presence on LinkedIn. And so if you're in B2B, you're most likely doing something in with LinkedIn.
Right.
And I think it started with that, trend. Gosh, it's probably been a couple years now, where CEOs were just bypassing reporters and going direct to LinkedIn or direct to YouTube or direct to the audience to
Right.
tell them about their earnings reports or whatever. Um, it may have started there, but increasingly over the years, executives have, more presence in LinkedIn, which I think is a really good thing. If you're building a reputation, the people, I've long said, people do business with people they know, like, and trust. And so, if you believe that, you need to give your executives a stage so that people can know, like, and trust the people behind the brand, the people behind the company.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that or one of the easiest ways to do that is through, thought leadership, whether it's content on LinkedIn or on a stage or a webinar or whatever it is,
Mhm.
to so that people can hear them, they can see them, they can know how they think and what they believe. And when I think about thought leadership, sometimes people assume like we're writing what we want to write, or we write a corporate message, or like we're like, I don't know, master puppeteers or something. That is not thought leadership. That is something else. I don't even have a word for it. But I'm never going to put an executive in a thought leadership costume and ask them to show up in a way that is not genuine, or ask them to say things or present things that is not something that they believe in. I'm going to parrot whatever they believe, or they want to say with what the audience needs to hear.
Right.
We're going to find that that Venn diagram, but I'm not going to put them on a stage where they're not going to shine and they're not going to be their authentic self. I think that's
Yeah.
really important.
Well, and I think some leaders are more, born to this than others, right? They
Mhm.
can be trained, they can practice, get experience, and all of that. But I feel like some are nervous about saying the wrong thing because now we see often companies that put
I
their foot
know.
in their mouth and they get the execs get caught out, just
Mhm.
they're just, at an event or something and they just offhandedly say something that maybe wasn't even wasn't planned, obviously, and they
I
got caught
know.
by a reporter and said something, and now it's like, all over the place. So I feel like, I think people want to know the leaders of a company, but sometimes the
Do.
leaders are a little bit like, reluctant to maybe put themselves out there because, it is a little bit of a risk. You just have to kinda
It is.
good sense. I mean
I know, I know, and it is hard. I think, I think it's a little bit better today, but I know there was a stretch of time where a lot of leaders, not just the ones I work with, I talk with my peers, a lot of leaders were hesitant because of, the really strong hold and cancel culture. They were nervous, like, what if I slip? And it could be such an innocent slip, but it's misinterpreted, or
Yeah.
it's, maybe it wasn't the right thing to say in that context, or there can be a number of reasons why someone's good intentions didn't
Mhm.
have the impact, that they intended to.
Right.
And it can, have a devastating impact back on the leader. Um, I know that's real.
Yeah.
I know that's real.
Yeah.
I have found that, yes, some people are naturals. I've worked with executives who need no preparation, put them on the spot and they will shine. I've worked with other leaders who need a lot of coaching and practice and rehearsing, and smaller stages before they get to the bigger stages. And
Mm.
I love that work. I think, to be honest, it feels like an honor to be that partner with an executive to help them get to a place where they want to be. I mean, they
Mhm.
they genuinely need to want to be there,
Yeah.
but to help them through that journey, I don't know. I feel like that is such an honor. When you finally get to that side, it's like, oh, that's a win. That's a huge win. Feels good.
Yeah. It's such a gift to have, I think, execs who are, you know, good partners with the
Hmm.
comms, the PR and comms team because it's, it makes or breaks sometimes, I think, your efforts. Because if you have somebody you can put out there and, they're gonna be charismatic and they're gonna be good at messaging and, so but yeah, no, it is sometimes you have to kinda work with folks to
Hmm.
get them there, so,
Yeah.
as we wind up, Gina, is there anything else that you would like to share?
Ooh, wow. I feel like I've dropped my little nuggets. I forget what they are now, but I know you mentioned one of them. I think, if I were in a position where I was, weighing opportunities or thinking about, we earlier when we were prepping, is the grass greener on the other side? I would talk to as many people on both sides as you possibly can.
Mhm.
excuse me. Um, every in-house role is different than other in-house roles. Every agency role is different. The environment that you're in, the industry that you're in, the people that you work with, the executives that you work with. I mean, I feel very fortunate. I know a lot of peers aren't in such fortunate situations, and our jobs are hard. Our jobs are really hard. We are often brought in when the stakes are at their highest. And
Mm,
so if you're in a situation or environment where that environment makes it harder, or the people that you work with make it harder,
mhm.
that is not a place where you're going to feel good about your work.
Yeah.
And I think the people that we work with, the environment, our colleagues, when I've had a hard day, I know my colleagues know it, and they're texting me, like, "How you doing?" Um, and that really matters, because some of the days are hard.
Absolutely. That's
When you're
yeah.
trying to get 12 approvals in 24 hours on a press release. You're remote. Remember when we could just run around, right? There
Yes!
was a time when I could print out a press release and just like literally walk up to people's desks and be like, I need you to sign this right now, or hold a meeting.
Yeah,
Everyone come in. We're going to review this all together. Like
yeah,
when you're remote, that's hard. And so the people that you're doing it, the environment that you're doing it with, the executives, do you or someone, levels above you have a seat at that table? Those things really matter.
yeah,
There's going to be hard days.
yeah, and for
Mhm.
young pros, I mean, keep note, of what you're digging about an environment or a role and what you're not,
Mhm.
because, you'll probably
Yeah,
remember what the things that you really didn't like, but, like, it's good to kind of keep that in mind as you, move throughout your career too, so this is not
totally.
for young professionals, but I'm just saying that
Yeah. I keep a list. I have a running list in a journal of like all the things that have been important to me throughout my career. Um, the things that were great and the things that were not. And so some of them are flags, and some of them are like, yeah, some red flags, green flags, yellow flags. And and you change, throughout your career. Early in my career, it was like, oh my God, like, I mean, of course we weren't remote, it wasn't even an option back then.
no,
um, but being in a 5 days a week office right now with an hour and a half commute each way, like, I'm not signing up for that. um, but knowing what's important to you is highly valuable.
absolutely.
Mhm.
Well, I can't thank you enough for your time
This has
and
been
all your
fun.
insight that you shared,
Thank you.
and,
Thank
yeah,
you.
I thank you so much, and, I'll be back very soon with another episode of PR Explored. Thanks, everybody.
Can't wait. Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.